Liberal women are now being hospitalized because they're taking too much Tylenol. I feel like if Trump went live on TV and was like, all right, everyone, don't eat your feces, don't drink your urine, the liberal women would start drinking pee and eating poop. I don't know what it is, how they're trying to stick it to Trump. I don't lean either way on this. I don't know enough about this subject to really make an informed, educated opinion about this. So we're going to go through this together. But these are some TikToks that I've seen. But this is basically about Tylenol. Tylenol is a billion-dollar company. I believe 25% of Americans right now are taking Tylenol on a yearly basis, which is a lot when you think about it. And this is a billion-dollar company. So this is going to be a huge hit to Tylenol if a lot of people stop taking Tylenol. And I think from what I've heard, Cass is a nurse, it's okay for women to take Tylenol when they're pregnant, but you just have to do it sparingly. You just can't take a ton of it. But this chick right now says she's a nurse, I believe, and I'll let her get into it.
So it's about, it's going to be 6 a.m. finally. And for those of you who don't follow me on Twitter, I recommend that you do. I got a call, a very frantic call at 4 o'clock in the morning from a husband whose wife is now dying of liver failure on a ventilator in an ICU because she was trying to prove that Tylenol doesn't cause autism because of what Trump said on the news. Mind you, that's a Harvard study. Now, whether or not you believe the Harvard study or not is not the issue here. The issue is that she's somewhere between 23 to 25 weeks and she overdosed on Tylenol. And she's going to die. She's not going to come off that ventilator. And the guy got my phone number from somebody. Somebody gave it to him. I mean, guys, it's early in the morning. I'm still in Hello Kitty sweatpants in my gym trying to work out. And she's going to die. It's going to be, let me tell you something about Tylenol overdosing and death, is that if you aren't administered the antidote, it is a very slow and painful death, okay? Because Tylenol, as well as Benadryl and aspirin, are the three most common OTCs that people will typically try to unalive themselves with, so it don't get censored. But now people are just taking massive amounts of Tylenol to prove Trump wrong. I mean, weren't these the same people who put Harvard and Fauci and the pillars of science on a pedestal? And now they refuse to believe it. Like, I don't believe it either. But I'm also not going to go overdose on Tylenol either.
Yeah, and so there's a lot of these women that I've seen online right now trying to stick it to Trump. And some of them are even doctors. This chick right here is an actual doctor, an MD.
28 weeks pregnant. You know what I'm going to take? Some Tylenol, acetaminophen. It's going to work like a charm, and my baby won't have autism.
That's wild to me. That is absolutely wild to me. That they're doing it out of spite. I think that's the dirty thing. Like, I feel bad for the kiddos. I feel bad for the unborn babies because you got moms doing this stuff out of spite, and that's awful. This kid didn't ask for this, but there's women, tons of women right now, dancing, celebrating, doing all this right here. Like, this is crazy to me. I'm pregnant, I have a headache, and still reaching for Tylenol. Sorry, not sorry. The orange man is not my OB. Now, consult your doctor. If your doctor says it's cool, hey, go for it. Now, I've talked to Cass about it. Like I said, she's a nurse, and she even says stuff like in moderation, you should be fine. You should be fine in moderation. But once again, don't take my advice. Don't even take Cass's advice, even though she's a nurse. But you can bet I'm going to trust Cass more than I trust anybody else that I know directly. But I would highly suggest just talk to your doctor, dude. Like, just because a political figure says something doesn't mean you need to go do the opposite. Doing my civic duty as a pregnant woman and taking Tylenol because the administration is this is what we've come to. This seems to me more like a mental illness other than anything. I don't know what else you would call this than just people being flat out stupid. Like, what do you call this, chat? Like, and who do they think they're really sticking it to? Like, sticking it to Trump? You think he's upset that you ladies are out there popping Tylenol? If anything, in my opinion, I think he's trying to help, which is the sad thing because they don't even see it that way. Me popping Tylenol while pregnant because what the F is the government going to do about it? I mean, I don't know. In a world full of, sorry, I got a little bit of the sniffles today, but in a world full of conspiracy theories and people going back and forth on what's true and what's not, it's hard to know what to believe. But if we can't believe physicians and doctors, who do we trust, dude? Who do we trust? If we can't go out there and talk to a physician or a doctor, who is it that we can trust? Chat, tell me who. Because I'm too stupid. I'm too stupid to know who to trust if I can't go trust a freaking doctor. Here's me, pregnant woman, taking Tylenol because I believe in science and not someone who has no medical background. So, like I said, in moderation, I've heard this is okay. I don't lean either way on this. Number one, because I'm not informed enough. I'm just seeing this go viral right now. So I'm like, you know what? I need to start covering these types of topics. But I think the awful thing about it is they're doing it. They're not doing it with like a sense of trying to get something positive out of it. It seems like they're doing it from a point of malice and like trying to stick it to somebody, trying to do it in a spiteful way. This to me is very odd. Very, very odd. I don't know if I understand this, but I think this is part of the woke mind virus that we see right now. And I'm going to play you guys a clip from Matt Walsh really quick, where he actually has the point where Trump addresses this and talks about it. And I think it's important to hear what he says, because a lot of people will probably take this out of context, but let's get into it.
Tylenol during pregnancy can be associated with a very increased risk of autism. So taking Tylenol is not good. All right, I'll say it. It's not good. For this reason, they are strongly recommending that women limit Tylenol use during pregnancy unless medically necessary. That's, for instance, in cases of extremely high fever, that you feel you can't tough it out, you can't do it. I guess there's that.
So he's even saying if there's a scenario where you can't hack it and you can't, I guess get through it, then I guess it's okay. But for me, it's like, what's weird, and I saw this is a tweet from Tylenol, and Tylenol, I guess you can't see it, but Tylenol says, we actually don't recommend using any of our products while pregnant. Thank you for taking the time to voice your concerns today. Which I think is, and the thing is, this tweet came from, when is this tweet? This tweet is from 2017. This isn't some recent tweet. But I think it may be, and I don't know, I could be wrong here, so chat, you guys let me know. You guys know I'm pretty stupid. I'm not very smart.
Stupid.
But this could be, I represent the common man, a guy that's like, but maybe Tylenol's just covering their tuchus on this, like covering their keister and saying, hey, we're going to put this on here. You consult your physician, consult your doctor, see what happens. So I think that's a smart thing to do because, legally they could be liable if something bad happens, which I, think is a smart play there, because the last thing you want to do is be like caught in the crossfire of somebody getting hurt or, have a massive lawsuit. Because it would seem like if somebody did have a negative effect from Tylenol, you would probably see a multi-million-dollar lawsuit come their way. This is another clip that Matt Walsh had.
It's supposed to be the safe option. Acetaminophen, most widely known as Tylenol, is routinely prescribed by doctors for pregnant women in pain. But a new large study out of Denmark calls this long-standing practice into question. In the study, women using the common pain reliever during pregnancy were more likely to have children who went on to have ADHD. The
research is raising concerns tonight that acetaminophen could be linked to autism and ADHD.
Acetaminophen is the most commonly used medication for pain and fever during pregnancy. Well, now we're learning that women who take it when pregnant may be exposing their baby to an increased risk of behavioral problems and other disorders, such as Tourette's syndrome.
A new study from Johns Hopkins found taking acetaminophen late in pregnancy
I wonder if my mom took this. Because, bro, I feel like I got ADHD.
may be associated with a higher risk of having a child with autism or ADHD.
A new study from Johns Hopkins finds taking acetaminophen late in pregnancy
is from 2019.
Associated with a higher risk of having a child with autism or ADHD.
New research out of Spain is raising concerns about prenatal exposure to acetaminophen. A popular brand in the United States is, of course, Tylenol. A study from Spain included data from over 70,000 children. It shows those whose mothers took acetaminophen during pregnancy were about 20% more likely to develop ADHD or autism symptoms.
I mean, that's crazy. That's a pretty high percentage there. But, dude, I'm going to keep it a thou wow. When I was a kid, I always wanted Skittles. Like, I feel like, in chat, put a 1 in the chat if you agree. I feel like boys don't do well in the traditional education system. I just feel like we don't. We're very rambunctious. We're learning to channel our masculinity, to channel our testosterone, our aggression, and sitting in a chair and being talked to for 30 minutes when you're a 7-year-old doesn't bode well for a child's attention span. It doesn't bode well for his learning style, doesn't bode well for his lifestyle. Boys are very, at least for me, I had so much energy at that age, dude, that the last thing I could do was sit still. Bro, I was so all over the place. My grandma would pay me $1 every 10 minutes to take a freaking nap. She'd be like, here's $1 every 10 minutes you take a nap, because I was so much. So much. But the traditional school system doesn't allow boys to be boys. It's more geared towards, in my opinion, it's more geared towards a feminine way of learning, which is okay. I'm not saying there's a right way or a wrong way. It's just different. The feminine way of learning is more of sitting down, being a little bit more quiet, quaint, and absorbing the information, being told what to do and say, yes, thank you. Women typically are more submissive, more agreeable than men are. That's why you see more men as business owners, more men as top-level CEOs, because men are, on a broader level, more disagreeable than women are. Chat, put a 1 in the chat if you agree. So typically women are a lot more agreeable, they're a lot more submissive, they're a lot more easy to be gullible, or a lot more easy to be coaxed, things like that. They don't push back as much as a lot of men do. And it's a biological trait, in my opinion, as to why that is. But in school, I never felt like I was doing really well. I don't know about you guys, but I was so stupid, I made my first C in 3rd grade. Stupid. 3rd grade. I stopped making, bro, I never even hit just a straight A honor roll. I was straight to AB honor roll. I just wasn't good at school. School wasn't where I thrived. You know where I thrived? My social groups, my friends, when it came to public speaking, when it came to being around people, when it came to being entertaining. That was my focus, and that was where I thrived. But the thing is, schools don't really teach boys to do a lot of that. I don't know about you guys, but I only took speech in high school, and it was 1 credit, and it was like 1 class. And everybody was afraid of this class, speech. You ask a lot of people their biggest fears, they're like, the number 1 is like public speaking. But I got no fear of public speaking. I feel like I'm speaking in public right now, even though there's nobody here. It's just me and Lokes, you know what I mean? Aww. But a lot of people have a grandiose fear of public speaking, and I never did. I wish that schools would have, found a way to engineer my learning a little bit better, where I could have been more of a proponent of, hey, how do we, figure out how to make you more comfortable in front of larger groups? How do we make you a better speaker? Because I've never been, I don't know about you guys, but I didn't really start to realize my talents until I got like a little bit later in my 20s. And I was like, you know what? I'm not very smart. I'm not like a hyper intelligent guy when it comes to book smarts. Street smarts, I'm really intelligent. I'm very emotionally intelligent. When I'm meeting someone, I can I just feel the energy of how they're reacting, how they're acting, what they're saying, what their body posture is, how they feel. Like, I pay attention to all that. But a lot of it's like a sixth. It's almost like my spidey sense. I'm like, I can feel it when somebody's upset. I can hear their tone, the way they're saying their words, the way their lips look, where their eyes are going, their body posture. Like, these are things I learned at a very early age. And maybe it's because I was raised in an environment where my mom and dad fought a lot. I was raised in a very toxic household where my mom was basically a single mother. My dad was a druggie. My dad was very abusive, a lot of domestic violence. So I learned from that. And they say kids that are raised in that environment are typically a lot funnier because they have to find a way to escape their own reality. I could be wrong, though. You guys know, Chad, I don't sit here and say this is holy script. There are some things I'm very passionate and opinionated about, but this is not one of them that I know a ton about. This is all speculative and anecdotal, so take it how you want it. But for me, I never felt really set up from school. I never felt like school was like, you know what, I'm learning a lot, I'm getting a lot out of this, and I'm going to be able to make this applicable to the actual world that I'm going to be living in. Goodness gracious alive. Big bag. So this chick is talking about this Tylenol stuff too. Let's get into it.
So, can whoever owns Tylenol, what is it, Procter & Gamble? I don't know. Whoever owns Tylenol, can they not hold the Trump administration liable for these spurious, untruthful claims about their product causing autism? Like, aren't we not allowed to make claims like that with zero proof? And
I think he's talking about a Harvard study, though. We'll get into that.
That will invariably lead to Tylenol making less money, like people not buying their product anymore.
Bro, they're making $1 billion a year. They're fine.
I'm gonna keep buying it. In fact, I'm gonna fucking stock up because.
Bro, this is so stupid. What you need to stock up on is gym memberships. Shots fired! That's what you need. Stock up on lettuce. How about that? How about stock up on less of that? I think that hair dye is getting to your brain.
I'll be damned if it comes down to it and I can't get my hands on some acetaminophen.
You're supposed to sound smart when you do that? Good Lord. So I actually had ChatGPT, and this is always scary when you use AI for this stuff, chat. Which, by the way, I want to pause for a second. Shout out to you guys. We had over 5,000 subscribers a couple days ago. No, I think it was yesterday. You guys are amazing. It was my best day ever on YouTube. Over 5,000 subscribers. So if you're here right now, if you're new, I appreciate you. Oh,
Shibbanaya should have bought a Honda, put it on a t-shirt.
You know, if you're new, I appreciate you. Man, it's crazy. I just wanted to say that because I was looking at my analytics yesterday. But I had ChatGPT actually look this up. And let's see if I can find the right one here. Okay. The Harvard study, paper published in 2025, the evaluation of the evidence in acetaminophen use and neurodevelopment disorders using the navigation guide methodology. Right? The study is a systematic review. It collects and assesses 46 prior human observational studies that examined prenatal acetaminophen exposure in childhood neurodevelopment disorders and autism spectrum disorder and attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. The authors found that 27 of the included studies showed positive associations. Prenatal acetaminophen use correlated with increased NDD risk, which is neurodevelopment disorders. 9 had null associations and 4 showed negative protective associations. They also noted that the higher quality studies, by their assessment metrics, were more likely to report positive associations. However, goodness gracious, my nose is running. I'm sorry, chat. However, because observational studies have inherent limitations, confounding, bias, measurement error, the authors stopped short of claiming causal proof. So from, I guess what I'm seeing here, 46 kids were tested basically, and then 27 showed negative signs, even though it was positive associations, which means use correlated with increased NDD risk. So I'm going to say that's negative, null, and then 4 were actually positive. So if we're going based off that, then I mean, yeah, maybe it's something we need to look into more. I wouldn't say going off of one study is smart, though. You know what I mean? I feel like if you're going to be making an educated guess, you need to know as many sides as possible. But if all these other people have been doing it, 2019, 2021, Spain's done a study, maybe it's time to sit back at the big round table of medicine and try to figure this stuff out. We figured it out at one point, but things do change. And I think this is where I feel like a lot of people get this mixed up. The world does change. Like, life was good in the 80s, but there's a lot of things they did in the 80s that we don't do now. What did they used to give, like, didn't Coca-Cola have actual cocaine in it? And then they're like, ooh, can't do that anymore. Didn't they used to give, like, pregnant women, like, mercury or something? Or, like, lead? You know what I mean? Like, we don't do a lot of these things because people have looked into it and done these studies. We just live in a different time now where people do these studies and do this research, and people are up in arms about it. We're doing the same things we've always done. We change. We evolve. This stuff grows exponentially on itself. Or am I way off base here, chat? Am I out of my mind to think that? I try to keep an open mind about everything and try not to be just like fixed on this and that. So I'm trying to come at this from a non-biased standpoint, kind of be like in the middle and say, I don't know, maybe it's time for us to reevaluate this stuff, or maybe not. Maybe these doctors, which I trust doctors. When I broke my arm for the 3rd time, because good Lord, I was really bad at skateboarding. It was one of my good buddies, his dad, one of the best orthopedic surgeons in Dallas. Broke my arm for the 3rd time, and he was doing some things to me. I was like, sir, what are you doing? He put a tourniquet on my arm. My arm turned purple. I saw white dots on my arm. He was pressing so hard on my arm, I could see like my bone go in. But he was like setting my arm back. And I didn't know what he was doing, but it worked. My left arm looks good now. Like, so these people that are going to school for one of the hardest professions, which I'd say medical or being a lawyer, probably the toughest professions, and especially the hardest things. Isn't medical school like ridiculously hard? Which I've heard it is. Cass said nursing school was hard, but like, when do we get to a point where we believe these guys? I don't know. It's weird for me because I'm not educated enough to sit here and be like, oh, they're all bad, or know enough about the conspiracy side of things. And I used to be a big conspiracy theorist when I was in college. Chat, were you ever a conspiracy theorist? I used to be a big conspiracy theorist, but then I got away from it because I was like, you know what? I can't always just be looking over my shoulder thinking everything super bad is going to happen. Like, there is some good in this world, but there is pure evil and there is pure good. So Let's get into this.
I took Tylenol as needed in moderation in all 3 of my pregnancies.
Hi, Dr. Sterling. Never seen you until just now because I'm researching that if I'm really hearing these rumors are true, that pregnant women are literally in protest taking Tylenol while pregnant because they hate Donald Trump and RFK Jr. that bad that they would be willing to put their unborn babies at risk. And so I watched your whole video and you're saying, well, these studies are inconclusive. And then you go on and say that during your pregnancy, you took Tylenol during all 3 of your pregnancies. So what you're basically saying here is it's safe, right? I mean, could Harvard, Stanford, Yale, Princeton, could they all be wrong? Well, how about Tylenol themselves? Let's see what Tylenol has to say. Shall we, Dr. Sterling? Tylenol took to social media and actually posted this on X, formerly known as Twitter. We actually don't recommend using any of our products while pregnant. Thank you for taking the time to voice your concerns today. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that you are no fan of President Trump, nor are you a fan of RFK Jr. I'm also going to go out on a limb here and say that you definitely voted for Kamala. And I'm going to go on another limb here and say that you would overlook all of the studies done by Ivy League schools and the statement that Tylenol themselves made simply because of your hatred for Donald Trump.
See, that's where I'm like, bro, you can't just make this decision because you hate somebody. Like, go out and do your research. And especially if Tylenol made that tweet, which is a crazy thing to even say. Like, we're in such an odd era now where we can say, well, Tylenol tweeted that. You should probably pay attention to it. You know, that's a wild thing to even say. But I think the horrible thing is that a lot of these moms are doing it just to spite Trump and RFK. There's one thing that I've heard RFK is doing, and this could be hearsay. I don't know enough about it. But I've heard he's trying to take like yellow 40, red 40, and like these dyes and preservatives out of a lot of the food. Because like in other countries, dude, if you try to go buy a bag of Skittles, they have like a warning label on it. It's like, do not buy this unless you are, this is toxic. This is harmful to humans. But kids here, I was popping Skittles at like the age of 6. I remember getting Skittles, putting about 14 to 20 in my mouth and chewing them up into a big ball and eating them all at once. I remember doing that stuff. I don't know. Like, I mean, nothing bad. Maybe nothing bad happened to me. I don't know. Maybe that's why I'm stupid now. Stupid. I don't know. I try to eat a whole food diet now. I try to eat better now. But dude, who knows? Who really knows? Because I know I don't.
Okay, so this is happening. So I have a friend that's a nurse, is an ER nurse. And lately, there's been a spike of women coming in, especially women, coming in with poisoning because they took too much Tylenol or acetaminophen. So this is actually fucking happening. I mean, are we for real right now? Like, you feel like...
Well, they could be trying to overdose. It could be, that could be a thing. That could be a thing. I think the bigger picture here is they're trying to stick it to the administration by, getting Tylenol poisoning, which is stupid in my opinion.
If you guys want to take away abortion rights, if you want to tell us that we can't take painkillers while pregnant because it causes autism, if you want to take all
Does she have a vape in her hand?
this shit away, take away my right to work. Take away my fucking right to have a fucking job. I don't want to work. I don't want to work. Okay?
Yeah, me either, honey. Sadly, the world doesn't work like that.
I don't care about women's suffrage, frankly, after everything else. Okay, I don't mean it like that. You guys get what I'm saying. If you're gonna take away anything, take away my right to work.
But y'all wanted that, though. What are you talking about? You wanted to work. The feminist movement, baby girl. Yeah.
I will gladly sit at home and make a fucking sandwich if it means I don't have to go outside in this public hellhole every single fucking day where everyone's a psycho MAGA. I can't take this anymore. You're telling me that pregnant women can't take over-the-counter painkillers? How does that make sense?
Well, see, what I don't get here is like, it's not Trump that, like, Tylenol said it. And Trump's trusting in the doctors that have said, hey, or the studies like, hey, probably shouldn't take it. Probably should chill out. Take it as needed. And even he was like, don't ever take it. He was like, hey, if you can't bear the pain, don't take it. That's fine. Loki, are you finally up for your nap, buddy? Free? Wait. Free? Go to your place. Yeah, at least from the clip that Matt Walsh played, it's like he's not sitting there saying never take it. You can take it if you really need it, but just don't take it every day. Don't take it all the time. Don't take it twice a day. Don't take it every 4 hours. And I almost biggity bet you it's the abuse of it that leads to the autism than maybe just once during your pregnancy, you know? Because don't they say you can drink wine during a pregnancy? Not a lot of it, but like you can drink red wine, I believe.
Welcome back. Acetaminophen has long been considered the safest pain reliever for expecting moms to use during pregnancy, but now a new study out links the popular drug to some pretty serious long-term side effects for baby. Let's go ahead and bring in Dr. Masa Tarani, a board-certified rheumatologist. Doctor, tell us about the study and the results. And I mean, it sounds like this is potentially transformational.
Yes, Jillian. So the group of researchers at Mount Sinai looked at over 46 studies, over 100,000 participants worldwide, and they found that in utero exposure to acetaminophen increases risk of autism as well as attention deficit hyperactivity type disorders. And the higher the dose, the longer the duration, increases this risk further. Now, we think this happens because acetaminophen can cross the placenta and it can interfere with the developing fetal brain with the chemical and hormonal signaling. And the big problem is acetaminophen, which is also known as brand names Tylenol, paracetamol, have been our go-to recommendations for pain and fever relief in these pregnant patients. I do have to say the study is not 100% cause and effect. It doesn't establish that, but it is a very strong observational study. And in this time where we're seeing such a significant rise in autism spectrum disorders, I don't think we should take this data lightly.
Well, so a lot of people have said, oh, autism, it's vaccines. Would this maybe highlight another association?
I think it certainly gives another avenue for us to explore.
Are you going to tell your pregnant patients to not take acetaminophen based on the study?
That's a great question. I'm going to tell a lot of us reflexively, we have a minor ache, back pain, we reach for that medication. Right. I'm going to try to counsel them and say, if you have arthritis flares, try other things, heat, cold, physical therapy, exercise.
Hey, and she sounds like a base doctor, dude. I don't know anything about her, but very eloquently said, you know? And it looks like the study was a lot bigger than like 46 people. It was 100,000 people. You know what I mean? It's just, we're getting to a point in the world where there's too many conspiracy theories. I remember back in my day, I used to think everything was a conspiracy theory. Yeah, everything's done by the government. And like, now it's like, you kind of want to know what to believe. But at the same time, so many people have told me the world's ending, the world's turning so bad, but my life has just gotten better and better. But you know why I think that is because I've stayed consistent and I've worked my butt off. Because it's a Stoic belief that you can only control how you react. You can't control the world around you. So more than likely, it's better that if you try to keep your bubble tight, keep the people around you close, and just do your best to be the best person. Be the best version of yourself and be the best person for the people around you. You know, serve your partners. Serve your little doggos. You know what I mean? There's only so many things that we can give our mental fortitude right now that it seems like so many people just want to find things to be mad at. I don't get it. I don't have enough mental capacity to sit there and be mad about everything. Or like hanging on other people's words, you know. They said this, you know? Life is too beautiful. Go touch some grass, you know what I mean? Go outside. Go play with your dog. Go get a nice dinner. Go treat yourself, you know? And, you know, when Cass and I got pregnant, I was sitting there thinking, I was like, well, she's the nurse. I'm the stupid YouTuber. Stupid. It's probably in my best interest to listen to my wife when it comes to anything medically related. Wouldn't that be the educated thing to do, right, chat? The thing about being dumb and the thing about realizing that you're stupid, at least for me, it's so freeing. When people ask me questions and I don't know the answer, I go, I don't know. Kanye West has a quote about this, but he's like, when life is treated, or when people ask you questions and you feel like you always have to answer it, it's like your entire life is a test. I hate tests. I have test anxiety. I don't like it. The one freeing thing for me about calling myself dumb and stupid is that I don't feel bad when people ask me a question. I go, I don't know, dude. I'm dumb. stupid. I've never claimed to be an intellect. And I think one thing that helped me, especially when it came to starting the channel, was that I see a lot of these guys that are really intelligent. Matt Walsh, Michael Knowles, Charlie Kirk. And you look at these guys, and they're content creators, is the way I see it. Political commentators, whatever you want to call it. Commentators, reaction, I don't know, whatever you want to call them. And I go, man, how am I going to stand up next to these guys? These guys are hyper intelligent. Extremely intelligent. And I go, but I think I have something that they don't have. I've got the stupid. I got the dumb. And I think there's a sense of humility. And maybe you guys like it, maybe you guys don't. Oh God, excuse me. Jeebus. We got the candle of the millennium, the eternal candle back there. I have to keep the door open now, Chad, or the fire alarm's gonna go off again. But the one freeing thing about saying I'm dumb is I never have to worry about being the most correct. I never have to worry about being right. I just have my own opinions. I feel like I represent the common folk, you know? Because I'd like to believe that most people aren't super intelligent. I like to believe that most people are average. And at least that's what I think. Maybe I'm stupid for that. But I don't know, there's something about it that is so freeing when you're like, you know what, I'm dumb. Maybe I'm good at a couple things. You know, when we're playing Call of Duty Resurgence, I know exactly where to drop, you know? And I'm the best one in my COD lobby. I'm just saying. But you put me up against somebody who's way better than me, I'll sit there and say, wow, he's a sweat. Like, great job. You know, like, I'll concede defeat. And I've always been a guy that's like, I'm happy for other people when they win. I think that is such an awful thing when you see other people winning and you're like, ugh, I'm jealous and envious of that. You can want that success as well, but you should let it be motivating. You see the guy next to you doing really well, it should motivate you to want to do really well. I was in corporate sales for a decade, and I would be around other guys who were high performing, and I would be like, man, I want to be just like those guys. You know what I did? I went and made friends with them. And when you go make friends with people that you see as almost like an envious level or your jealousy of their success, you start to realize how normal and everyday they are. They just have a few different things you can learn from them that you can take, make it your own, and you can be hyper successful as well. I'll give you guys another story. I had some issues with my washer, my clothes washer. And so I got online. I said, I don't know nothing about this electrical stuff. I'm gonna go find an electrician. Cool. Get an electrician, boom, bam, schedule it. They come by yesterday. It was a 22-year-old guy who's from California. His dad owns a massive dairy farm, and he milks, I think he said his dad milks over 80,000 cows a month, which I was like, oh my God. Dad makes $3 million a month. Insanity, right? 22-year-old guy. And I just sat there and I asked him, I was like, did you go to college? He's like, no, of course not. He's an entrepreneur. He owns his own business. He has land. He's got a wife and kids. He's 22. And I'm like, dude, I'm 35. You are so far ahead of me. You're so set up for success. But he self-admittedly goes, yeah, but my parents were successful and they helped me out. And I told, he's like, were you raised? Like, what was your family environment? The kid's hyper intelligent for a 22-year-old. And I was like, man, I was raised up poor, abusive dad, druggy dad, single mom. I was not given any sort of advantage. I had to go figure all this stuff out myself. And so I just sat there and looked and I was like, man, I'm 35. It took me this long to kind of get to a point where I'm hitting my financial stride. This kid's 22 and he's 15 years ahead of me. And y'all, the math is not good. Stupid. I'm sorry, I can't even do that quick math. What is that? 12? 11? Dude, I'm so dumb. Anyways, he's so far ahead of me, but he had such a leap as far as the help. His parents were entrepreneurs. They own their own businesses, and they taught him everything he needs to know. I wasn't taught any of that stuff. You know what I was taught? To be a worker. Go get a degree. Go get a safe job. Go break your back until you're 65. That's what I was taught. I had to go out on my own and go learn how to hustle and be entrepreneurial and start my own stuff. All that to say, don't ever feel like it's too late. Just feel like if you got something you feel like you want to start. You're 40 years old. What did the Colonel start at KFC when he was 65? And dadgummit, is that chicken good? Don't feel like it's ever too late, chap. You can always get out there and do what you want to do. I didn't start. Think about it this way. I did not start my channel until I was 33. 33. There's a guy, Men Need to Be Heard. I think he was in his 50s maybe, or late 40s when he started his channel. Whatever you feel like starting, start it today. Hope you guys got a lot out of that, man. But I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. It was good to have you guys out, man. Until next time. Peace.